General statistics. According to the CSO, the Central Statistics Office, for 2011, there were 514,357 foreign nationals living and working in Ireland. That's a figure that was up by 320,000 approximately since 2002. I thought this was very interesting because there was an impression when the recession hit in 2008 that the number of foreign nationals would drop dramatically. I don't know from your personal experience on the ground, but I haven't felt that particularly in Portlaoise. I know it's possibly because the CSO, the last census, Laois was one of the counties where the immigrant population had increased a lot more than other counties around the country. Maybe that's the reason, or maybe not as many foreign nationals emigrated as or probably politicians thought might. The rate of unemployment among foreign nationals, in 2011 it was 22%, compared with a rate of 18.5% among Irish people. So that just gives you an idea. Obviously, the unemployment rate amongst foreign nationals is higher. You probably feel that on the ground because a lot of people coming in for classes, well, we definitely feel it in Laois and Offaly, are primarily unemployed, socially disadvantaged and not as integrated into the communities as we would like them to be. 1 in 5 unemployed people in the country in 2011 were foreign nationals, and the highest rate of unemployment was amongst Nigerians, at 39%, Romanian and Russian nationals. I thought that was also interesting because in our literacy programs, a lot of our literacy students are actually, the highest proportion are from African countries are actually Nigerian. So it's they are fluent English speakers, but they have literacy problems. So perhaps that's a reason for that high unemployment rate amongst Nigerians. And then with the Eastern Europeans, it was Lithuanians that were coming up with the higher unemployment rate, well, at 24%, and Polish nationals slightly lower, possibly because Polish nationals, from my experience, it's the highest immigrant population group in Ireland, and they have a lot of networks. So particularly during the boom, we used to find a lot of our Polish students would actually have friends maybe come over, work in construction, speak Polish with their friends, set them up with everything, the accommodation, electricity, gas. And when the Polish national would even go into work, there would be one person on the construction site who would be the spokesperson, and he would talk only in Polish. So there are situations now, at the moment in 2014, where you have, and we see it in Laois and Offaly, where people have been living and working here 8 to 10 years, but they do not have a word of English. And people find this hard to understand. They're saying, I don't understand, how can somebody who is here for 8 or 10 years not speak English? But depending on where they've come from or the type of work they've been involved in, that's generally the reason why. They've lived sometimes in cocoons, and they have spokesperson or somebody who speaks for them or on their behalf. Current statistics, July 2014, there were 404,500 people signing on the live register. Irish nationals accounted for 83.5%, and 16.5% were foreign nationals. So that's a reduction from 22% with foreign nationals unemployment rate to 60 in 2011 to 16.5% in 2014. So that looks good. On the TV last night, I was just watching the news, and they were saying the unemployment rate is at 11%. So that looks even better. Maybe the economy is improving. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But the number of foreign nationals who are unemployed has reduced. What's in place to support ESOL learners? I started to think about the policies that are in place. The Further Education and Training Strategy was launched in 2004, from 2014 to 2019 was launched. And I read through the document. I downloaded it as a PDF, and I clicked find, and I put in ESOL. And ESOL, I think, came up 5 times in the document. Literacy and numeracy, many, many, many times. So literacy and numeracy is predominant in the Further Education and Training Strategy. ESOL, I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't seem to. It didn't seem to be. Maybe it's because ESOL is just meant to be part of everything else. I don't know. What did they refer to? They were reference to the literacy and numeracy strategy. They said we need to have priority for low skilled and unemployed ESOL learners. Okay. We need to assess the language competency level on entry to ETB. So if an ESOL learner is coming into an ETB, we need to assess their level. And I know, Kieran, you'll chat about this later on. I know in our centres in Laois and Offaly, when ESOL learners come in, we use an Oxford Quick Placement test to assess their level, whether or not we're going to offer them a place on a course. So when people register, we test. We generally tend to take people in large groups, maybe 20, and test them. It's a 30-minute test, so it gives us a clear indication of the level they're at before we start people on a course. The other point on the FET strategy which was positive, they looked at projected employment levels, and they said there were projected gains for employment in managerial, sales and IT occupations. Now, with literacy learners at very low levels, probably managerial and sales, I don't know if if there's a market for them in those areas. If you're looking at ESOL learners at level A1, A2, so beginner, elementary, but maybe when they move up, there are probably jobs in managerial and sales positions. The construction sector, they do refer to it in the document, and they say there will be recovery in this construction sector, although albeit that they're starting from a very low base. And what do we need? According to, you may remember back in 2008, the IVA, the Irish Vocational Education Association, they did a survey in 2008, and this is what they said we need. They said we need in 2008 a national English language policy. Key recommendations also included a national ESOL strategy, a national ESOL support office and a dedicated budget for ESOL. Now, as you know, in 2008 we hit the recession, so none of those recommendations really have manifested. So then I said I'll take a look at what's recently been recommended. So in January 2013, the DES reviewed the Adult Literacy Community Education Service funded adult literacy provision in Ireland. And it said that these recommendations are due to feed into the DES, the Department of Education, strategic plan for SOLAS. And they, in the final summary of recommendations, it's on section 9, page 86 and 87. I won't bore you with those little pieces. But there were 3 recommendations in relation to ESOL. Assess language competency level on entry. So assess the students coming in. It is happening in ETBs, but probably there needs to be consistency and standardisation, and Kieran's going to mention that, talk about it later. Prioritise ESOL learners up to level 2. Well, we know that's the restriction within the DES budget guidelines. We can't go further than that. And collecting administrative data in relation to language competency and accreditation. And that's good. We need to be more proactive in collecting data and recording what level people are coming in, how they're progressing, and if they're progressing. So that's very positive. What I was a little bit disheartened to see is they hadn't referred back to the IVA recommendations about a dedicated budget, about a national English language policy, about an ESOL strategy. So I was slightly disheartened about that. And then the last, I think, recommendation was they said look at the existing level 3 award for ESOL to ensure that it reflects the common European framework of reference. We've had a lot of discussion around this over the years at workshops, where the FETAC level 3 ESOL, people didn't always feel that it was the best certificate to be using with English language learners, because there was wasn't enough focus on maybe grammar and language acquisition. We've used the FETAC level 3 certificate. We use it and it works quite well, but it needs to be used at the moment in a situation where ESOL tutors have the opportunity to introduce other topics, so that the gaps that are there with that certificate are met, so that the learner does have the language acquisition that's needed, or the level that's needed at the end of the 60-hour programme.